I don't need an Apple Pencil. I don't need any special anything. I'm going to do what I want. Oh, wait, the camera started. That's
right.
I want all the special things. I love all the fun things.
Yes, as we're letting people chime in here or get in here or fall into the room or whatever it is, welcome on Twitter, the most popular platform for information on the planet. And we're still here. We have not been banned yet. And then we've also are on LinkedIn tonight and YouTube and Twitch, and we're vamping until we get through the... we'll do the count. Should we do the countdown? No,
just do the countdown.
All right.
Oh, welcome in, everybody. It is Thursday night. Hopefully I didn't over-modulate anybody or blow out your speakers with that. Hello. It is Thursday night. It is 7:30 on the East Coast, 12:30 over in Europe. I guess it's Friday, technically, over there now. I am one of your co-hosts tonight. My name is James O'Hagan. I'm the host of the Academy of Esports podcast and Director of Digital Virtual Learning for the Racine Unified School District for the time being. And to this direction...
Carrie Linden, otherwise known as the Chalk Koju on Twitter. I'm the communication specialist at Liminal Esports and Snowboard Studios.
And down over in this direction, we have...
My name is Angelique Giannis. I am an English teacher. I'm also a NASEF Scholastic Fellow, and I run our esports program at our high school.
And down here we have...
Hey everybody, I'm Bradford, EdTech Tinker on Twitter, NASEF Scholastic Fellow, TechSef Chief Learning Officer. I have to think about all the stuff that I'm in, and District Coordinator of Innovation.
Well, it has been an interesting week with technology and education and everything else that's going in the world, right? What have we learned in the last week? I have some ideas on how we can extend the learning of all this, but any thoughts initially?
I mean, there's a lot. From what context do you want to start from?
Where you want to go?
Because from content creation to teaching civics, like there's so much. There's so much.
Well, the question that I always lead with kids is, what is your brand, right? Yeah. And that's the question I always ask kids. What is your brand? How do you want to perceive yourselves online? And as we're talking about, people who are not just esports gamers, but we're also talking about just people who are streamers. There's, the people who suck at playing games but are entertaining, right? The people we turn into.
Feel so called out.
You don't have to come for my life like that.
Right? Shots fired.
But it's only 4:34.
But hey, we're starting in heavy tonight.
So we're bringing the spice.
Right? Yeah. But we saw just how quickly that social media presences and how people can, grow their groups or grow their networks can really spiral into something that we didn't even realize it. It was really a messy last week.
But did we not realize it? I mean, I think that's what is frustrating to me is being, especially in reference to the gaming community, being in the gaming community for a very long time and watching content creators refuse to take stands on issues and allowing their communities to become more and more toxic without addressing the toxicity within their community. To me, it's not surprising. Like, it's not shocking. I've seen streamers that are family friendly and open to all, and their communities are not. Their communities are highly toxic. They're not standing up for the behaviors. And not telling people to stop, doing things that are potentially dangerous or against the law or harmful to other people. So no, not surprising. Like, we, especially as a gaming subset or a content creation subset, we currently live, there are people that want to protect their brand by not rocking the boat. And when you don't do that, you can allow certain behaviors to fester within your community.
Angelique, you look like you're holding back.
No, well, I don't know. I just think of that, and I think of it in the same perspective as teaching. It's like the same thing as if you don't address things in your classroom, and then it spirals out of control. But you have more power in a bigger community, like.
And it was amazing how quickly streaming Twitter started turning on itself last Wednesday. Like, immediately started ripping itself apart. And the odd thing is it wasn't ripping itself apart because of specifics as to what happened. It was ripping itself apart because of who chose to stand up and say, okay, this behavior isn't acceptable in my community, and who chose to just sit there and be like, I can't say anything. I don't want to say anything. You can't make me say anything. I'm not saying anything. And it just, like, both sides went at each other's throats. But it's like the point that I tried to make is whether you stand up and say something or whether you don't, both choices speak volumes. It just depends what message you're sending to which group. So if you're sitting there thinking that by not talking and not, like, making your stand or your piece of morality, like, transparent, you actually aren't staying neutral. That's not what you're doing. You're taking a side by staying quiet, and it sends a very clear message. If you want to stay neutral, you're gonna actually have to say something.
We just have a comment that says, what exactly are we talking about? I haven't followed the news and I'm Canadian. Well, Canada. we
don't look south. Don't look south.
Don't look towards Washington, D.C. and what was going on. What we were talking about is really talking about what were the learning opportunities. And yeah, it's esports, again, is an ecosystem, or as I called it last night with me and AJ, we called it an ecoverse. I kind of like that phrase.
I think ecoverse is a good one. That's a good one.
And in that ecoverse are things like, how it's not just playing the games, but it is what, the question I ask my scholar gamers is, what is your brand?
Yeah.
And looking at last week and what happened with Donald Trump and the riot and then the subsequent banning of a lot of people in social media and the shutdown of Parler and all that, there is that question of how are you presenting yourself? How are you sharing your story? How are you engaging people? And that's where I think the teachable moment is, and where the important discussion needs to take place. I really wish this is the time when I wish we had kids in class rather than not engaged with their cameras off. As I'm trying to push Angelique's buttons a little bit, but it is important. And I joke when I say that, because the kids can have their cameras off and still be engaged. But what I'm serious about is, I really wish we could have just had the kids in school on that Thursday and that Friday to have these discussions and to talk about what this was, because I don't think this was something that lent itself for the disjointed separation of a virtual conversation. No,
especially not via platforms like Twitter that completely chunk down how quick or how little you can say at a time. I think it does come down to branding. It does come down to what you stand for as a content creator or as a public figure. And I think, every time I heard somebody's excuse as to why you shouldn't step forward and say where you stand on things, some of it was like, well, they're branding. Like, well, my brand, this isn't my brand. I'm like, well, your brand, like, hate to break it to you, marketing in 2021 is not non-political. Consumerism is not non-political. So if you think you can have a brand and not have that brand have some sort of political or moral ideology, you're wrong. That's just not how it functions anymore. Like, Google what's going on in marketing. Companies have to stand for something, or they're getting canceled, or they're getting boycotted. Like, you can't be a brand and not have more beyond just your persona. So that's just like, that's a non-argument. Like, that's done. It doesn't apply to current marketing. But then on top of that, like, I've had other people say, well, you know, this is how I make my living. I'm like, I get that. You know, if you're a full-time content creator or you're an esports athlete, this is how you make your living. But if you are so afraid that you're going to lose funding by saying, the events of last Wednesday were, you know, potentially traumatizing. I want to make sure that everybody in my community feels safe and accepted. Please don't have, you know, these conversations in chat. Like, if you are so afraid that you're going to get, like, you're so stifled by where you work and who you're partnered by, maybe you need to turn around and look at who you're partnering with. Like, if you're partnering with companies that are inherently racist or inherently supremacist or
inherently,
extremist,
or they come up and say, we don't take a side.
Yeah, it's taking a side. So to me, that weight falls then on the content creator and the athlete. You have to look at who you're partnering with. You made a decision to partner or be sponsored by somebody. That's on you. So yeah, if they're telling you you can't rock this boat, you're saying that you value that more than you value the safety of your community. And that's a personal choice. You know, you can start looking for new sponsors, you know, but don't just put that and be like, well, I can't because my paycheck. Like, no, you can. You can look for sponsors that fall into your own moral guiding. And to me, that's what I assume. If somebody says, well, I can't because my partnerships, then I go, okay, well, if you're partnered with these organizations and they're telling you you can't because this and this and this, I'm going to assume that you believe in that as well. Because why would you stay partnered with an organization that goes against your value system?
And this leads us back to that conversation we had a few weeks ago, even about as people are entering the marketplace and wanting to do business with schools. You know, for example, you have a company that's backed by weed. Oh, guess what? Don't come to us. Don't even start the conversation.
Absolutely.
Don't even hit send on that email.
Gambling? Yeah, you can engage with us, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a response from us that you necessarily like. And, you know, that is something that is, I know for some of us is a conversation we sometimes avoid. We just ignore it. But we also can't ignore it because there's going to be that one school who maybe doesn't do the check, and then they get caught. And for the rest of us, that makes us all look bad.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. What do you think this would have looked like if there wasn't said COVID? And I don't want to blame it on COVID or anything like that, but because of COVID, so to speak, our eyes are glued to social media, whatever that social media platform is. And so, and I told people that did affect how we voted, how our thoughts were, because that's all we turned. That's all we turned to, because there was nothing else to do when we were stuck at home. All you did was watch the television, social media. That was the big influence. What do you all think this would have looked like if this was, let's just say, if this was 2019 and this would have happened? Would this have been a bigger impact? Would social media have been looked at a lot differently?
I think it still would have hit social media in a similar way. And I think it still would have been as big of an issue because, you know, what happened probably still would have rolled out in a similar fashion. I mean, I definitely think that we've seen an uptick in conspiracy theories and extremism in the year that we've been locked down. And that's not just one side. Like, let me preface it by saying that's both ends of the political spectrum. You know, when you are just plugged into social media, there isn't fact checking. You're not getting balanced exposure to information. But that isn't just a 2020 thing. That has been building in our country for a long time. So if somebody wants to blame it on COVID, you can't. It's been festering in pockets of the internet and through social media. As soon as you see social media start to rise, and as soon as you see people start to get all of their information from social media, that's when you start to see this blossoming of extremism. At least that I've seen, because things aren't getting fact checked. People aren't double checking anything. They're seeing a post and they're running with it. It's like how many times I've seen my Facebook feed explode in outrage because some smartass posts a comment about the fact that like the bottled water you drink contains the actual chemical makeup of water. And people are calling for protests of water brands, and it's like, dude, that's literally just that's literally the chemical composition of water. They're just screwing with you.
My favorite one was years ago when the Man Show first started on Comedy Central. They went out and did one of those like on the street sort of things, and they got women to sign up to end the suffrage of women. And they got all these women. They're like, yes, end the suffrage. There's too much suffrage for women. Yes, we need to end it. And it was just a commentary on just how few people really understood. Well,
I think it's a good lesson. Like, I mean, as an English teacher, I look at this like from a lens of your voice, right? Like, I have on the back of my classroom wall, it says your voice is your superpower.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this all comes back to, especially because we're all inside, we're all glued to social media. Like, your voice is powerful, and this is an example of that. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. It's your choice. You can use it to spread information that is not true without fact checking, or you can take 5 seconds and make sure you're educated before you say something. And that's like something I always preach in my class. Like, yes, you guys are 15, 16, but your voice matters. You can change people's perspectives, actions, and thoughts by the things that you say and share.
And as teachers, there's a huge responsibility to teach students how to recognize false accounts. And I've been really happy that my son's school has done that. They've run them through. There's a couple different sites that do it, that run you through a pile of different social media accounts, and they basically have you dig through it and see if you can identify the accounts that are essentially bots. They're not real accounts. They're set up with one intention. Kids need to learn how to do that. They need to learn how to like clinically dive through somebody's social media content and go, you know what, this isn't a person. This is an agenda. And unfortunately, kids don't know how to do that. Adults don't know how to do that. They get
I need that lesson. Can you pass that lesson?
I'll have to see if I can find it.
Yeah, that's actually really that's really good. I need you to send me that lesson or link or whatever it is that you have.
I'll have to see if I can find it. Yeah,
I'm
writing myself a note.
We do this thing about like our librarian has this lesson, and it's like a fake animal. I forgot the name of it.
And
it's one with an octopus.
Yeah, the Northwest Pacific tree octopus.
Yeah, that was right.
Like, gives this whole spiel about it, and the kids are like, "What? Oh my god!" And they go on the website and they read it, and it's like, dude, you guys are so gullible. Like,
I ran my kids through the documentary that showed up on the Discovery Channel on mermaids because they had all watched it.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh my god, did you see? Like, mermaids were proven. I'm like, no, we're gonna watch this, and we're gonna watch it really carefully. And I ripped it apart for them, and then like the whole thing ended, and they're still like, I'm like, no, now we're gonna go through the credits, and we went through the credits and we tore it apart, and in the end, I'm like, okay, so everybody's a paid actor or actress. Like, you can spot scripted dialogue, but like they watched it at home and they bought it 100%. Like, they didn't see all the little signs that were like, no, this is a mockumentary. None of this is real. They bought everything. They bought it all.
I think about where is, again, the places we need to be as educators right now, because here's what I see also starting to happen even as Parler is shut down and Facebook has really started to clamp down, and even Twitter, the run to platforms like Telegram, Signal, and even Discord to some degree The problem
Discord
with
has long been a hotbed for lots of things.
the problem with those spaces is that they are closed networks. The problem with those spaces now is you don't get pushback. It only makes the echo chamber that much louder. So it's important in my mind that we, again, need to not ignore the spaces and stick our heads in the sand, but as educators, we need to find our ways to navigate into these spaces, to teach kids how to navigate and work and survive even in these spaces. I know that, again, part of our esports program is having our Discord server and teaching kids how to live in these spaces where you do have different voices, you have different opinions, and really try to make them reflect on, if they do something inappropriate, that it's not a punitive action, that it is an educational action of, hey, think about what it is you just posted. Well, where is it as appropriate or where is it not?
Right. We need to teach kids how to have difficult conversations. Like, I grew up in an era where it was like, well, you don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion. And I think we went far too long with that being the policy. And so now you've got a generation of people that don't know how to disagree on politics and religion. And so there's this just two sides. And heaven forbid you're in the middle. Like, I feel miserable for all the moderates that are out there right now because they're getting burned to the ground by both sides of the extremes, even though they're the ones that are like, well, everybody stop, none of this is good. We need to learn how to have political conversations. We need to learn how to go, okay, I hear where you're coming from. I don't agree with any of it. Here, let me tell you about my side. Like, being able to get discourse back, so it's not just screaming at one another, as well as like, how do you have those conversations? Because if you immediately go to threats and slippery slope and straw man arguments, you're not going to prove anything to anybody. Like,
right.
Or worse, take your ball and go home, or go find another home. Where you have people who just echo again, create that echo, create that.
But that's
beast.
what we're at now. We've in the era of cancel culture. If somebody does not agree with you, they are subhuman. They don't deserve to live. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to find all the people who believe exactly the same thing I do, because those are the people that are right. And unfortunately, that has not helped make us get along with one another as a society. It's not promoting change in any direction. It's just allowing each of these groups to get farther and farther apart.
Right.
That echo chamber just feeds itself. And next thing you know, you've got, two extreme ends and not a whole lot of people in the middle.
Yeah, I had the minute all this stuff happened, I went home and I had a conversation with both of my kids, and my kids are 17 and 19. And I still have conversations with them. And I said, look, it doesn't matter what side that you're on, don't care. But I remember when I told you when you're a kid, there's a right and a wrong way to do things.
Yeah.
And you can go out and protest peacefully, that's fine, and believe in what you want to believe in. But I always say you are a representative of people who are not watching you. And this example was a perfect representation of what was going on, no matter what you believe in.
Yeah.
And I always say, that I always, especially with my son being a male, I say, being male, sometimes we always react in anger. I'm just putting that out there. We always get defensive, and we always
No, we don't. I'm just kidding.
No, and I said this was a perfect example of how do you, if you believe something is wrong, how do you react? How do you talk it out? And let's break down why are they upset, and then what is the conversation going to be like the next day? But know this, you're still probably not going to get your way. And so then how are you going to react to that?
No, but then also understanding where the other side comes from is key, because a lot of times when you watch people argue, a lot of times they're arguing the exact same point, but just from two different perspectives. And if either side could stop for a second and realize that the issue that they're concerned about is safety, or one particular thing, well, then we can start finding ways to make sure that both sides feel safe, without necessarily trampling and demonizing the other. Like, you can't start solving problems without understanding what the actual problem is. And when you everybody gets in a frenzy, you get all this other stuff thrown in. It's like, well, I'm mad about this. I mean, we've all done it as people, and we've all seen like kids do it. You know, we've all had students do it. They're just a tornado in the classroom. It's one thing that's actually getting them upset, but they're pulling everything else in, and they start hitting out at everything else as well. But if you can find that one thing and fix it, everything starts to simmer down. But you've got to be willing to do it. Like people have got to be willing to sit, which means de-escalating bad situations instead of ramping it up and getting defensive and becoming going on the offense, is being able to like calm the other half, make sure they feel listened, and start to untangle the fury. I don't like.
So then the other question is, what do you do if you're that parent or that adult and you were in that situation and you were acting violent, and then you go home and your child reacts in that same way at school because they did that? What's that 1980s, 90s quote? I learned it by watching you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you don't even have to see it from your parents. It's everywhere. Like, look at half the politicians we've seen in the last,
But I directly saw you go into somebody's building or get buck wild. So therefore, you told me for years, James, don't do that. Don't do that. If I see you do that, I'm going to do this. And then what happens next? You decide to go buck wild.
Yeah, there was that young lady from Boston whose parents told her all summer, don't go to the Black Lives Matter protests because they'll get buck wild. And what does she see on Twitter? She sees her mom go and assault some woman in D.C. And she called out her mother. Mom, is this you? And she named all three of her.
Oh no!
She named her parents and her uncle.
See that
for the cops? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But she turned in both her parents and her uncle.
Savage.
I've heard stories like that.
Yeah, it's rough. And I think like us as teachers, going back to the branding, having like teaching kids a way to express where they stand in a way that's non-offensive. Like, because you can be liberal, you can be conservative, you can be a moderate, and you can express where you stand with things, and you can express your guidelines and boundaries and expectations in ways that aren't confrontational. Like, it's doable. We need to learn how to do that, because so many people don't, that they just have the knee-jerk reaction and they get aggressive. And that's why you see a lot of, social media, I think, failures. You see a lot of, content creators. Well, it's not burnout. It's that they don't know how, I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to lose half my followers. Like, well, maybe think of how you say it. Like, just you can come out and make your point of view said without demonizing the opposition. It's possible.
Again, I just hope that the takeaway from some of this, I hope that a lot of people just don't look at this on the surface and just make this because I have a feeling this is coming. Big tech is bad, and we have to rethink all of this now, and we have to regulate it. We need to think again, what is the teachable moments? What are the things that we can carry into our classroom? What are the things we can carry into these esports experiences, because so much of it is online? And really, again, raise attention to the importance and the necessity for kids to start now at a young age, whether they hit 13 years old or unfortunately earlier, even though their parents aren't supposed to let them on, really hammering home that idea, what is your brand and how are you presenting yourself online, and really think about the other person on the other end when you share an idea or you share a thought. There's been many times I have wanted to, especially in the last couple of weeks, wanted to publicly reply to the president and to also and I got done typing it and I'm like, if I hit send, really, what is this going to do?
Nothing. It's tilting windmills.
Yeah.
But
I typed it out, I thought it, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not even going to remember this in 20 minutes. Why even bother?
I think too, it's a good time to have conversations with students and children about what is protected with free speech.
Oh my gosh, should we?
Because so many people don't understand that free speech is not unlimited.
Oh my God, we need we need
nor-
a whole nother round of Schoolhouse Rock in this country.
Yeah, we do.
Oh,
We do. We
that would
absolutely
be
do.
so great.
Like that's a big one that I'm running into. Is like freedom of speech. I'm like, yeah, no, we crossed that. Like you crossed that. There are specific situations that, yeah, sorry, you've got none. And then how that reflects back on private companies. Like Twitter isn't this big free public entity that is. I mean, it's a company. Like it's a company. It has a term of service. If you break its terms of service, it has the right to suspend your account.
But
you agree to those terms of service when you sign up.
And I'm only playing devil's advocate because this is what Jack Dorsey even said a couple days ago when he was asked about the ban. He did use the phrase that Twitter is the world's public forum.
But it could shut its doors tomorrow. It has that right. It's a private company.
It could. I'm just saying that you can't on the one hand say we are the world's public forum and on the other hand go, well, guess what? This is not the public forum. I'm just saying.
Yeah, see, to me, like I look at Twitter the same way I look at Twitch and Facebook. There's terms of service. When you sign up, you agree to those terms of service. If you didn't read it, that's on you. And there are people every single day that get banned and get their accounts taken away from them because they've crossed that line. Now, for me, the issue is, are they enforcing those terms of service equally? So it's one thing to go after one person for breaking terms of service, but then they also need to be making sure that they're doing it on the other side. So you can't just go after one political demographic. You've got to make sure that you're equally enforcing it. If they're not, then yes, then you're looking at potential issues with censorship. But if they're equally enforcing their terms of service, no, that's their terms of service. You've agreed to that. It's a contract of use.
That's the problem. They haven't.
No, I absolutely agree.
So now we're saying is we need to watch to see how long is he going to be banned for. So yes, he's banned, but how long is he going to be banned for? And that people that doesn't stop him from saying, well, from opening up another account and being somebody else or whatever.
Well, they figured out that real quick, didn't they? Though when he started bouncing around. Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They started figuring that out right away. And again. He's the damn president of the United States. All he has to do is call a freaking press conference and everybody will come running if they really wanted to. But I don't want to get too much into the weeds. Yeah, we're already in the weeds. Oh my God. I don't want to get in the weeds.
2 minutes into the weeds.
This 30-minute weedy conversation that we're having. It is, though, the again, sticking to the teachable moments here, the really making sure that we're up on this. And again, keeping tuned to our own spaces that we live and work and hopefully
Forest.
What?
Weeds? You guys look like a rainforest. Bring on the foliage.
It's like when those people say they find a skeleton in their closet and then open their mouth and a bone comes flying out. You know, it's like those kind of things. Good God, we are in the rainforest.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah. What's rain?
I feel you. I feel you there, my California sister.
Like once. Yeah.
All right. So where else are we at right now as far as things go? Because I don't know. Am I just giving up? Did I just totally hijack this and go, well, we're throwing this out? I don't know. I'm just going to... Angelique, just go ahead and go off on what you were going to go off on. I'm just going to sit back like this.
No, I'm just, I feel like as a teacher, we're in a space where we're like used to distance learning right now. Like we've kind of gone through it for 2 semesters. The kids have gone through it for 2 semesters. And now I think teachers are forgetting that this is not normal.
Yeah.
That our world is not normal and the situation that we're in is not normal and how we are all experiencing life right now is not normal and everyone's going through trauma collectively.
Especially right now. Yeah, shared trauma.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting that because we've been in this place for so long that we're like just lost in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. I think we need to just remember that this is not normal. Like, the world is not okay right now, and nobody's okay. And I, turning kids' cameras on doesn't mean that they're engaged in your class. Period.
No, and neither do aggressive grading systems, or hard deadlines. Like, there's so much right now that we're just adding more stress on top of a situation that is already remarkably stressful for our students and teachers. I feel bad for all the students who were very aware of what was happening last Wednesday, who were forced to stay in class and take finals, who were forced to continue to do classwork. Like, I know my son was lucky that if you go back and look at their work, a lot of the teachers just got rid of the work for the day. Like, it's not in the grade book. They're like, yep, nope, nobody's functioning today because nobody was. I mean, you could see productivity from the team that I work on.
Front door.
Someone's at the front door. Not my front door.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My front door.
That's really loud. Do you have a smart house?
Apparently.
Do you have a butler?
My Google Nest.
Wow.
Does your Google Nest have a name? Because I feel like if it's that loud and intrusive, it has to have a name.
Wow. No, it doesn't have a name. That's the first time it's ever done that, y'all.
What's happening?
Someone's at the front door.
Right?
Wow.
Reality's at the front door.
Yeah.
Don't know.
So now everybody on Twitch knows my business that someone's at the front door.
Yeah. Now we're gonna want to know who. We're gonna
Do you need to go get that? Should we just wait for you?
No, I'm just gonna look. I'm just gonna look on my Nest while y'all talk. my wife got it.
Axel Rogan chat says, I don't like deadlines, but my procrastination monkey needs a deadline for the panic monster to wake up and make me productive. First of all, that's like my favorite TED talk, and I use that in class every single year before an essay. It's great. Highly recommend as a teaching tool. The kids love it, and I use that for the rest of the year. But I agree. I'm the same way. I need deadlines as well, but I think I'm not saying we don't need deadlines, but I'm saying we need to have compassion. Yeah. When giving those deadlines.
Flexible deadlines right now, I think, are key. I mean, obviously, end of term, that's it. We've all had students. Like, I had open terms. One student who's refers to herself as my surrogate child. Like, I still talk to her to this day. She would turn in an entire quarter's worth of work at 11:59 on the last day of the term. Every single time. It drove me nuts because then there was me grading all that fun stuff.
I can't,
But she was one of those that needed.
See, I can't do it.
At 11:59.
It's stressful for me.
She needed that hard deadline. But not everybody does. Like, right now, people are stressed. So if it's like homework gets turned in every single day, well, then allow people to make things up. If you have a test and your test is worth 50% of your final grade, give them that final a couple days before the end of term, so they've got the ability to go back and make corrections and up their grade. Like, we're dealing with a period of time where kids are extremely stressed. If you have the ability to lighten some of that load, please do it, especially because their parents are stressed. You have a lot of students that are sitting at home and emotionally and or physically abusive situations. Our grading systems matter. I want to say, like, before all this happened, there were a lot of teachers who were oblivious to what happens between report cards because that was all stuff that happened at school. And if anything was wrong, you'd get a phone call home. But now that everyone's living online with online management systems and online learning systems, parents are plugging into their kids' coursework every damn day. And if you put a little X up or there's a little 0 because that's how you enter your grades, you could potentially cause a whole world of suffering for that child that's avoidable.
And you don't know who that parent may be. That's the trippy part, because that parent could be now the superintendent, an executive director, because I've heard those stories where the child can be just whoever the child's name is, but when they get those reports of, oh, well, your child is failing. Yep. And they'll just get the grade that they get and the parent has not received any type of early notification, they have no idea that, oh, you don't really know that I actually work for the district. No, I'm not a teacher in the district, but no, I'm one of the chief officers. Yeah, I've heard those stories. I'm like, ooh, you're not really following the right protocol, and you're going to get into some big trouble because you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
I know that we are going to have a lot of grace in this time because I have been I don't know how much louder I can ring the bells. We already in my school district have a problem with credit recovery.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of years ago, on the big scale, Los Angeles Unified School District got wrecked over their credit recovery practices because they were completely they were not monitoring at all. They were letting kids just take kids were finishing classes in a day, for credit recovery. And here's what we're looking at right now. We have a lot of freshmen, but we also have a lot of 7th and 8th graders who in the last two school years have had a very disjointed education. They're going to get to their freshman year of high school. Let's say we go back face-to-face next year. And what is going to happen with the most failed class in the school district, which is algebra, and they've had a very fractured pre-algebra experience, a very fractured, 7th grade math experience. Our passing rates for algebra are going to be what? And then
they're going to be abysmal.
And then what does that mean for credit recovery at that point? We have to really start thinking now about how we're going to modify our school program for the next 2 to 3 years. Because this is not going to be hey, we're back in session, everything's cool now.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that everybody just wants to get to get their vaccine.
Yeah.
And then they just want to get back in the classroom and then they'll figure it out from there. You can't. We have to start really like all these things that you've learned right now, all these different ways that you've learned to teach, new ways to connect with kids, connect with them outside of the school, in the school. Use those things when you get back into the classroom. Don't put them on the shelf. We actually had teachers telling kids, when we get back, don't bother bringing your Chromebook because you're not going to need it.
What?
No, you're still going to need it.
Well, and I think a lot of teachers, and that's teachers are really uncomfortable right now because we're all learning new stuff. And for a lot of people, learning the tech side of everything is incredibly overwhelming. Yeah. I was lucky to have dove into everything from the get-go because I'm a newer teacher, but I can't imagine what it's like someone who's been in the classroom for 20 years trying to learn all this stuff, 20, 30 years, whatever. Trying to learn all this stuff. Yeah. Who hasn't been in tech before, right? Like those teachers that were doing packets and papers and don't bring your Chromebook to school and don't even take it out of your backpack. Everyone's uncomfortable right now because we're all learning. But I do think people have this false sense of when we get the vaccine, we're going to walk back into our classroom and it'll be just like when we left. And that's not true at all. It's not.
And we've had conversations about that in past broadcasts about how many kids are going to have gone through, a year's worth of schooling without actually transitioning into the expectations of their school site. All the kids who've moved into middle school and not experienced what it's actually like to be in middle school on campus. People who are like my son who transitioned into high school and is doing his freshman year off-site. We're going to have to readjust how we handle things. If we go back and it's like, okay, well, now all your homework's due the next day. No one's going to know how to do that. We haven't been asking them to balance that. That's going to have to be a soft transition. There's so much that's going to have to be a soft transition. And then you add on top of it the subjects that can't pick up. There are some classes that you teach where you don't have to watch the first movie to have the second movie make sense.
Yeah.
But there are other classes that you teach that if you haven't watched the first movie, you're screwed. So, you've got to understand your curriculum and know, do I have the ability to just sort of, backfeed a little bit of information and these guys will be okay. We'll just keep pushing them forward. Where, you're dealing with subjects like math, no, you're going to have a lot of kids that are going to be coming in. And even though they maybe made it through algebra, pre-algebra, algebra 1, they probably aren't going to be where they need to be to move on to that next class. And how do we handle that?
What we are doing is we are actually the grades will go in for the first semester, for example. And let's say it's an F, right? Let's say kid got an F in algebra 1, semester 1. Semester 2, they still go into semester 2, right? The idea is if the kid starts to show growth or through a standards-based approach is able to demonstrate, yes, that they've actually started to pick up, the teacher can go back and change that semester 1 grade.
Okay, that grade
to a
stays
passing
open.
grade. Yeah, so that grade is going to stay open for the remainder of this school year.
So it stays as an F and not an incomplete, because I think what our school district has just decided to do, and I don't know if it officially went through, they were debating getting rid of Ds and Fs and essentially turning it into like an incomplete. So you wouldn't be assigned a grade, but you would have to go back and show competency before you graduated. So you would have to essentially prove that you have completed all the requirements for that class at a later time.
I always say D is for diploma, but that's me.
Yeah, it's the lowest bar you can shoot for. Were you there? Yes.
Well, and again, that's the importance of, I'm proud to say that all 5 of our high schools have esports teams in both Smash and Overwatch that have made it to state. In fact, we only had one school not finish in the top 2 in Overwatch, which was great. And what's also been great is just how important, again, that community is. We keep talking. I mean, we could just what's your community like this week? I mean, could be the conversation. Mm-hmm. It's still all of this stuff that we are doing. Yeah, the games are cool, and yeah, whatever. I had a great conversation with a nice woman today about a school in a neighborhood, a small college in the neighborhood of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And, they kept talking about esports from hey, we learned about this and the computers and all. So I go, yeah, but think about this. You have a college in the center of this really dense Latino community. I said, I'm going to hook you up with the folks from the El Paso Honey Badgers, which is a strong Latino program, which also has connections back to the high school. Think about this as a community project. Think about this as bringing in not just other college students, but also giving high school kids the opportunity to step foot into your building, to at least get familiar with it, to have it open on the weekends for safe kids, for families to come and play with their kids. Again, we need to, especially now when we start coming back, our programs like this need to expand and really, again, become less formal, less pathway to the pros, less, hey, we're going to have this season and this season. Try to give as much opportunity for kids to play, because there's going to be a tremendous amount of healing that needs to take place. And again, we talk about, we got to build relationships. What better way to build relationships than a teacher and a kid getting together and playing a little NBA 2K and one kicking each other's butt?
Especially because right now we're seeing so many communities fragment. We're seeing long-term relationships fall. We're seeing familiar relationships fall. Your online communities are crumbling. Like as people divide and pick sides, a lot of adults and a lot of kids are losing some of their friend groups and some of their support groups. The communities that we create through esports programs are important because they're moderated. They're moderated by adults who should be able to intervene and teach kids how to, disagree and still be able to work with one another. They can protect the safety of that community. And in a time where, a lot of our communities are really fragile and fracturing, those communities that we curate are extremely important. Extremely important.
There's about 400 planes flying over me. So
you sound like you got like an air show going on.
Can you hear it?
I can hear it. Yeah.
I mean, it's no Sam Anton. I mean,
what is happening down here?
I missed that.
When I was interviewing Sam for one of the episodes we did, she did it at a lovely cafe right in the flight path of John Wayne Airport. Yeah,
that's what she was saying. It was loud.
It was slightly loud, yes.
I don't know. I mean, I'm downtown, but I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway. Community. Yeah. You guys know I love the community stuff. I'm all about it. I am like so thankful that I decided to just kind of step away from the competitive stuff this year. And I was like, you know what? Something's got to give, and that's going to be it, because I want to house as many kids as I can to play games and hang out and have fun. And while I have like a relatively small, consistent group of kids that have come to our club every week, they like are so thankful. Like, so many of them are like, I would not have got through this year without this Discord, without this server, without this club, without looking forward to like laughing, like crying, laughing on Fridays. So it's so important. And when we get back, just transitioning those kids and getting them involved and getting them to know their teachers and the school and everything is so important. And yeah, let's have like a Mario Kart competition, you know?
You know what, Angelique, you actually make a very good point. Even when it's time to go back with the vaccines and people thinking that it's a perfect world and we're all face to face, whatever people think, whatever your opinion is, your opinion. Is it time to necessarily go and run tournaments and competitions, especially if you've never done it before? And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually need to make a note about that because I'm actually going to speak on that within a couple weeks. And I know people are thinking, okay, well, when you talk scholarships and competitions, but if you've never rolled anything out like this before, we're all teachers and educators are just trying to get back and figure all of this out. And the biggest thing that I know one of my coworkers, directors talked about is we don't need to necessarily look for the new when stuff is already fractured. We got to repair that. Yeah. You want to build esports, that's totally fine, but let's look at it from a community standpoint and start bringing people in together first and get it established first. And whatever you want to do to bring the community together, build relationships, let's do that. I was going to also say things like Discord and Twitch are completely different from Facebook and Twitter, to where you can put those bots in and moderate and show your educators, you can do this way because Twitter and Facebook, they don't do it like this. Yeah. It's more controlled. It's a controlled environment.
Yeah. I think like when we return to school, I don't think like chasing the league, right, going to join Play Versus or HSCL or whatever. I don't think that's the way to go. I do think friendly competition and tournaments are fun, but why not just have it be an inter school thing? Like just a school, like we were running Smash Ultimate tournaments, and it was just for people who were in the school, and the kids just loved it. Like, and that's where they met friends, and they'd go hang out after school and watch the tournament. And yes, it was competitive, but it was like a fun competitive, just, you know, it's the vibe you create. Are you going to make it like negative and serious and like real spicy and competitive? Or are you going to have it, keep it lighthearted and funny? And, you know, you win and you get first place, and that's awesome. But like, I've had students when we did Smash Ultimate tournaments, like, you know, we do the bracketing, and I'll never forget this. One of the kids was against his best friend, and he sat down in the chair and they looked at each other, and we're just all laughing because we can't believe it. And they started the game and he just walked off. And he's like, I don't want to beat you. You keep going. And he just left. And it was just like stuff like that was just, I think that's important. And I don't see it as very competitive, but I think tournaments are a good way to bring kids into the space to then build that community and get to know their school.
Yeah.
It's the community building that we're all going to need.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I know that this has been an important, and it's not just the people in this space here, obviously. It is also the people online who have been engaging with us through this whole time. I mean, I had something in my eye. Stop it. I did. I swear. No, it's been the people here in this space, and none of this when we started was this. I would do this for no people. If it was just the four of us just here having a conversation about this for an hour, I'd totally still do this, or everybody else. It's this is important. This is going to, I think, help us all out. But with everything you just said, the invitational planning is going really well for the League of Legends Invitational. In fact, I am happy to announce I got sponsors and everything.
Awesome.
Check this out. So we're doing the Racine Unified School District League of Legends Race for the Cups Invitational. It is 6 different invitationals. So it could be 16 different teams for 6 different invitationals, different play formats to give kids a different opportunity to play around. UGC is handling all of our back end work, so I don't have to do anything as far as setting up the tournaments online. They're going to handle all that. I just have to plug the teams in where they go. We've got prizes like LG is donating monitors for teams.
What?
Oh, wow.
We've got Spectrum Industries up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. They're donating, get this, gaming chairs in the color of the winning school.
Whoa,
kids.
that's fancy.
Right? And then we've got Intel is part of it, MSI, SHI. Dr. Christina Wagner has been a tremendous help. It is, again, using the rules of Riot, their own community guideline rules, playing within those rules, and again, as you were saying, Angelique, it's providing this, hey, you want to play for 2 weeks? Play for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You don't want to play for 12 weeks? Don't play for 12 weeks. You can do this week, and then that's it. Cool. And here's the thing, too. There's been so many people who have stepped into the esports space this year and didn't realize what they were getting into.
Yeah.
And it's nice, I think, as we get back into it, to have more of these 2-week invitationals, to just give people these times to, maybe that's as even as NASEF is starting to figure out what are we going to do next. As teams are coming on new, rather than saying, hey, commit to a whole season, let's just have you do this 2 weeks here or this 2 weeks here. Yeah. And then after those 2 weeks, let's all have a big meeting to talk with your team about the experience, and let's break it down and what we could have done better and where we need supports and where do you need help. I think those are things that really start to, again, make the community stronger. It builds better connections, and it will make us, as we move forward, better tuned to work within our space.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going off on a Bradford for a second there.
Well, if they want to donate a monitor to me, my monitor is dead pixel.
I need a monitor.
Stop looking
I need a
at
monitor. I need a chair.
I need a chair.
I need a chair. We all need chairs. Anybody want to sponsor the stream? We all need chairs.
Hey,
you don't need a chair.
I'll hit up the Spectrum Industries people and go, you're all about, we don't have any sponsors, but there's something about,
and I can tell you right now, my chair is like sitting on like a plywood plank.
Look, I am all about like keeping it real and like, no, we don't sell out. We're not. We can say what we want because we don't have sponsors.
If it would bring me a nice new chair. Today's Esports EDU broadcast was proudly brought to you by...
and let me tell you how I feel.
and here's me over here. I didn't get a chair because I'm not selling out. And Carrie's like, and now the chair.
She's like, look at my chair
over here.
All right, final thoughts for tonight. Bradford? I already gave my final thought. I ranted for a bit, so I'm just going to let the three of you do whatever.
Well, okay. So per Kevin Brown, I guess I promise I'll do a rant next week. Check out the podcast I did with James. I think I ranted there. If you haven't seen that,
it will. That gets launched. That podcast episode goes live. I think next, and then I did the 100th episode with AJ, and Angelique gets to be 101. She gets to be the 101.
Awesome.
But no, I'm going to say focus on when we all get back, whether this be this semester or in the fall, focus on community building. Don't start anything new. Focus on what you have and you're building up relationships. You don't need anything new. Focus on building relationships in your community.
Yeah.
Angelique?
I mean, that you just took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, and I think now too, it's just because we're comfortable, quote unquote, comfortable in distance learning, and we know how Zoom runs, and we've gotten all that, the tough stuff kind of figured out as far as the tech stuff. Don't forget, you still need to build community within your classrooms, and that could look like a lot of different things. I keep hearing people say, well, all my kids' cameras are on, so that means I have a good community. And I could not disagree more with that. Yes, some kids definitely like to see others on camera, But for some kids, that experience is traumatic, and it's not doing them justice. It's not doing them a favor. So you can build community in other ways. My students are super active in chat, and they're always chatting with each other and being super funny, and we make inside jokes, and we're doing questions of the day and drawing and all these things. There's so many other ways to build community than saying community is I see all my students staring at me through their camera.
Yeah.
Carrie?
Two things. One, be gentle with yourself and others right now. Everybody's really keen on doing knee-jerk reactions to other people as well as themselves. I know I've had to catch myself a few times, as have people I know and work with, of like, why am I not okay right now? It's because things aren't okay. And allow yourself to be, in a space of stress and trauma. We're going through a lot. It's going to take us some time to process that. So give yourself that space. Lastly, if you haven't swung by my Twitter today and voted on the Snow Bright pirate ship, please do so, because we have been in a deadlock tie since like 10 a.m.
I know, I'm going right now.
I keep reporting back. I'm giving the blow by blow in the office Discord. I'm like, oh, Enchanted Florist has pulled ahead. Never mind. We're back to...
Well, Enchanted Florist is my vote. I just voted.
Okay.
So
We've been at 50-50. So swing by the Twitter, cast your vote. If you know anybody else who would have an opinion, shove it their way. I want to get more input. I do not want to end this tomorrow with another 50-50. I'm not building two ships at the same time. Not happening.
All right, and I got my vote in and I dropped it into chat. So, all right, that'll do it. This is end of it. So we will be back next week. It will be, we'll be into like the third week of January already.
you voted for the other one, so now it's even again. Did you do that just to
No, I
mess
did the
with?
Enchanted Florist.
That has just been all day long. Just like it's driving me mad.
All right, everybody have a great rest of your week. We will make it to the weekend, and take care of yourselves. Everybody take care. Cheers.
Peace.